What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, and today I'm back to talk to you about Warhammer 40k. In this new series that I have started today, I plan on going over the Primaris Space Marine Armory. I will be going over their weapons and war gear that have been improved upon by none other than Belisarius Cawl and his Adeptus Mechanicus. And as such, these weapons are pretty potent in both the lore and on the battlefield. I'm gonna go over each piece of war gear based on the unit who wields these weapons, so let's begin by taking a look at the Armory of the Reborn, with an analysis on the Vanguard Suppressor, starting with the lore, and then we'll switch on over to the tabletop. So without further ado, let's jump right in. The Suppressor Primaris Marine has the role of dealing with heavily armored targets. Usually these types of enemies require heavy weapons that cannot be easily deployed or must remain stationary to fire. That is not the case for the Vanguard Suppressors. This 3-man unit enters via aerial drop, all thanks to their grav chutes as well as jump packs. This anti-gravity device allows the Marine to deploy from suborbital heights to rapidly descend where needed, and also to be able to redeploy once the target has been eliminated. Once they drop in, they bring the pain to the enemy via the Accelerator autocannon. This weapon fires off 12-inch long armor-piercing rounds which can tear enemy infantry limb from limb, or shred apart vehicles in mere seconds. This weapon is usually seen on tanks, but the reason why these Primaris Marines can wield this heavy weapon is all thanks to their shock-absorbing servo plates that minimize recoil and allow more precise fire. As a secondary weapon, they wield the reliable bolt pistol, as well as frag and crack grenades, while the Sergeant also carries smoke grenades to allow him to shroud their exit as they blast off towards their new target. The power armor donned by them is a unique Mark X variant that combines both Gravis and Phobos armor together. It is called the Omnis Armor, and it's very durable yet lightweight, and this is really good because it's able to make that orbital jump but still take the recoil of the vastly heavy weapons that they carry into battle. And now that we know what they can do in the lore, let's jump over to the tabletop and look at what they do on the table. So when you play a suppressor squad, you have to bring in a minimum of 3 units. They're worth 100 points and you can't really mix and match anything here, but the unit itself is pretty powerful. Now earlier we talked about the grav chutes and what they can do in the lore, but in the game of 40k, at least in 9th edition, when you set up a unit during deployment, they can be placed in low altitude instead of placing it on the battlefield. At the end of any of your movement phases, this unit can descend, being able to be placed anywhere as long as they're 9 inches away from enemy models. Basically, grav chute allows them to deep strike. Now this is a weapon, a unit, that you really want to be placing kind of near the back portion of your deployment zone, because the Accelerator autocannon has a pretty long range. So it's not smart to put them really close to the enemy because they'll get charged and their best asset will now be a hindrance to them. The smoke launcher that I said the Sergeant has is pretty awesome. You can only use it once per battle, and you use it instead of shooting any weapons in the shooting phase. Basically what the smoke launcher does, it allows your units until the next shooting phase to have a -1 subtraction from enemy models that target them with ranged weapons. So let's say you dive in from deep strike and you get a round off of shooting. On your next turn, you're going to be left open to retaliation, and depending on where your enemy moves, you might not be in a very favorable position, so you might want to relocate. Now since your weapons are heavy, moving is going to take a -1 modifier to your BS, but you can use this turn to pop smoke and essentially make them harder to hit, so you can relocate and then have a better vantage point on your next turn. They also come with an ability known as Suppressing Fire. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack with an Accelerator autocannon against an enemy infantry unit, if a hit is scored, that enemy cannot fire Overwatch this turn. this is a pretty big combo piece, especially if you're fighting against the Tau, because the Tau no longer need to spend a command point to use a stratagem to fire Overwatch. They can just do it. So, suppressing fire is key to stop any enemy unit that you hit with your autocannons from overwatching. Essentially, lore-wise, what this means is that you're barraging the enemy in a hail of suppressing fire that they can't retaliate from a charge coming their way. So it fits perfectly, it makes sense, and it's pretty cool that this unit can synergize with a close combat unit in your army as well. Now, looking into the actual model itself, the Suppressor has a movement of 12 because again they've got that jump pack. Their weapon skill and ballistic skill is a 3, to Space Marines. Strength and toughness is 4, 2 wounds, 2 attacks, leadership 7 with a 3-up save. So even though they have this ominous pattern armor, the only real benefit here is that movement, because they're not much durable because of the toughness. Usually Gravis gives them a 5-up, but the Phobos portion of it, I guess, reduces it down to make them more maneuverable to be able to use that jump pack. So in my opinion, they're an interesting model because they're able to move that 12 inches, but because of their heavy weapons, they could move that fast. It's just a hindrance to their ballistic skill. But still, they're Space Marines, there's ways around this. Now, we're here onto the weapons and war gear. Like I said earlier, their secondary weapons are bolt pistols and frag grenades. Nothing new here, it's all the usual. But let's dive into the Accelerator autocannon. Earlier I said they're meant for a long-range support type of unit, and that is 100% true because their range is 48. So in most boards of 40k, they have complete access to shoot at anything on the board, for the most part. 48 inches is a pretty long range, and it's really good. Now, firing a hail of these foot-long anti-armor rounds is amazing because that's 3 attacks. It is a heavy 3 weapon, and since there's 3 of these Space Marines in this unit, that's 9 shots coming at the enemy. Each shot is at strength 7, AP -1, dealing 2 damage. So if all your shots go through, the armor, they're dealing a potential of 18 wounds. That's really good. So it's really good at taking out other Marines because of that 2 damage, but also any vehicle that is out in the open will get shredded. Strength 7 is pretty formidable. The AP is a little low, but I think it's made up by the number of shots that you're using. So it's a very fun, very powerful support unit that I think most chapters of Primaris Marines would benefit from having these. Especially, like I said, if you're going up against Tau and you're able to render Overwatch useless, at least for a unit. And with that being said, that brings us to the end of yet another Warhammer 40k video. Like I said, this is the beginning of a new series where I go over all the weapons and war gear for the Primaris Marines based on each individual unit. So if I talk about intercessors, they have a variety of weapons that they can use, so I'm going to be talking about all the options there. So again guys, let me know your feedback on this. If you've played suppressor squads, do you think they're worth it? I personally have a squad of those myself. I haven't used them yet, but I think they're going to be pretty good. So again guys, stay subscribed for more on the series, and I can't wait to get into the next one. This has been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll catch you guys then. Peace.